The Maclan DRK 160 ESC is probably the best thing that we'll see this year in no prep drag race, except for those elusive voodoo tires. What's up guys, it's Chad. Welcome back to the Dorky and 40 channel. Today, I want to do just a 6-month review of the DRK and how it has taught me so much about drag racing and RC, how it's made my life better, and how it sets a bar for a lot of manufacturers to improve upon. I've tried to examine and look for faults in the DRK, but it's kind of hard to find any. I mean, we are dealing with a product and software that was built from the ground up for us, for drag racing RC cars, what we like to do, the logging, the launch control, everything about the DRK is just top notch. Definitely started off on a hot streak and won all of the big races. I know there's been competition out there lately with Tekin and R1, but it seems like time and time again, the DRK still keeps on landing in the finals of races and taking home the gold. If you take a look at some of this video here, I first started with mine back in March, April, and I was running a 3.1 at 46 miles per hour with the DR10. As I learned and everything else, I posted my best time ever, a 231 at 68 miles per hour in a few short months. I have started looking at other technologies. I'm playing with the Tekin and the Sanwa radio settings now, kind of doing that bullet thing on the breakout chassis, which we'll be talking about in some upcoming videos. So make sure you subscribe for that. And hey, what do you think of the new studio remodel? Well, I know it's a basement still, but it's definitely, I think, a step up. Things are a lot cleaner. I like the lighting. I'm still trying to work out a few things. Let me know what you think, guys. But every time I try one of these other ESCs or look at it, I always find faults because there's things that I wish it had that the DRK does. So let's start over from the beginning. If you're a new person, exactly what you're going to do with this ESC and how you're going to set it up, and I'll throw in some advanced tips and tricks that maybe will help you along for the ride. So let's do it. So I think everybody knows what the DRK is and looks like by now. When you get one in a box, you're going to get a power switch attached to it. You're going to get a cat pack soldered on. You're not going to need to do anything else. You'll get like a sensor wire. Actually, that comes to the motor. Sorry. You're going to get a fan if you want to use a fan, and of course a micro USB cable. So when you first get this thing and get it all soldered up and plugged up, the first thing you're going to want to do is figure out how you're going to talk to the DRK. There's a couple different ways you can do that. They sell a wireless link, which I'll show you right here, or you could actually use an Android device. So if you have an iOS device, the only way to actually talk to this DRK is to plug in and use the Wi-Fi adapter. If you have an Android phone or an Android tablet, you are all good. You can hook this up to your laptop as well and use their little Maclan program. You might even have to use that the first time that you get your DRK. Usually they'll come flash now with version 12 of the software on there, and you'll want to update that to version 15 so that way you have the 5-stage launch control built into there. That software is available right here on their website. Go ahead and download that if you need to. If not, you can hook up again with that wireless link or an Android device, and you can actually flash the firmware right off the bat with the device. So let's just hook up and take a look at that real quick so I can walk you guys through the steps. So the first thing we're going to make sure of, guys, is that you got the right kind of cables to hook up to your tablet. We're already hooked up to the car here. And what I have is what they call a USB OTG cable, over the air, whatever. This thing is what is going to plug into the tablet or phone side, not into the ESC side. If you do that, you're not going to get any connection at all. So let's go ahead and hook up to the Fire tablet. We'll open up the app and I'll show you what the firmware looks like. So we plug our cable in here and it's going to ask us for permission to go ahead and access that. And once we do that, we're connected to Wi-Fi. We're going to go ahead and get a connection up here that says we're online. And if we click on firmware update, you can see that it's going to tell us what firmwares are available. And if we click here, we will see that we have the 15 and the 12. Of course, I already have the 15 on here, so I don't have to worry about that. But that's what you're going to want to do to update your firmware. All right, so now that we're done with that, there's a couple things that you guys are going to want to do real quick with your DRK. There's a couple videos I'm going to link in the description below. The first one is you're going to have to calibrate it. The radio calibration with the DRK is a little bit different than usual. It starts with full reverse or brake versus starting in a neutral position. So make sure you watch this video so you learn how to do that. Also, start off with nothing in the radio. Don't reverse any channels or anything. Leave everything normal. That way it should calibrate properly, and if not, you only have to make one change, reversing your throttle, and that should be it. But I've seen a lot of people get tripped up on this. Make sure you don't. The other thing that's important is this video about profiles. The great thing about the software that we're going to go through is that there's a number of different pre-made racing profiles for 4.5 turn and 3.5 turn low and high traction environments. These are great default bass tunes that have never let me down. If I'm ever having a day where I'm struggling on the track to get the car from A to B, I always go back to one of these profiles, and I can guarantee that I can make a hit. It might not be the fastest hit, but it's going to give me some confidence, and it's going to give me a good jumping off point to look at my logs and find out exactly where I can make changes, whether it be in the first 5 stages or at the end when we're applying turbo. The main thing though is you don't want to overwrite these profiles. The only way that you're ever going to get back to them if you overwrite them is to completely flash your ESC, which means that you have to do your radio calibration and everything again. Not a big deal, but not the best thing to do on a race day. So make sure you watch that video so you know how to do that from the start, and go ahead and start saving your own profiles. So when we first open the app and we go into programming, this is where you're going to see all of your tunes. If you hit the little drop down here, you're going to see everything that you need right here on your tunes. You can do whatever you want to do. Pick whichever one you want to start with. I'm going to go ahead and select the one that I've been using here to start with, the 3.5 turn low traction 2, which is one that I've created myself, a little bit of a modification. First thing you're going to want to make sure that you do is go into the general settings. You're going to want to make sure that you add reverse power. It's going to be at 0, so if you make a hit, you get to the end of the road, even though reverse calibrated, you're not going to have any reverse power. You're not going to be able to get back to yourself. So make sure you add some of that in. 35 to 45% should be good. That's what I run mine at. Protection settings, this is where you're going to adjust your battery cutoff, your temperatures. I bump those up a little bit. I never even get that close, so it's not that big of a deal. I disable battery cutoff just because of a habit. You can lower it to whatever you want to. Throttle settings, this is where the mysterious stuff is as far as like throttle punch goes. Throttle punch goes from, of course, 1 to 99 or maybe 100. And the lower the throttle punch, the smoother your acceleration is going to be. The higher the throttle punch, the harder it's going to hit in between the stages. So depending upon your grip, your traction level, your experience level with changing the other parameters, this is where this is going to come into an effect. With the regular tunes, you usually get anywhere from 70 to 80 throttle punch. I've been experimenting with the lower throttle punch. Big Chief likes it. I seem to like it too. It creates a nice, more linear acceleration curve, and less of the harder hit as the stages are applied. Try it out, see what you think. I'm not sold on one way or the other, but it's definitely something to know that we now know how it works. Brakes, again, go in and adjust your brake setting. You can add some drag brake if you want to. I don't have any on the DR10. I do on the breakout chassis though with the Tekin. Maybe 5 to 10% drag brake isn't a bad idea to help slow yourself down at the end of a run. Launch power control. This is where we get into our stages. Now it's pretty self-explanatory. You've got 5 stages of launch control. Each one has a percentage that your throttle that's going to be applied to it, and each one has how long the stage is going to last. So when I pull my trigger to 100%, it's immediately going to go to 35 for 0.3 seconds. Then it's going to go to 55% for 0.25, 72, 85, so on and so forth for that determined amount of time. This is where you're going to get most of your tuning at. Basically, the more you can put down earlier, the better things are going to be, depending upon how you're geared, launching, and everything else like that. If you're geared more for speed, then maybe like I am, then this isn't going to be that big of a deal. But if you're geared more for torque, then you might have to change these things around a little bit more, because if you're running a big 100 and some tooth spur and you're trying to put down 35% first stage power, really that doesn't make any sense. You want to try to up that to like 45 or 50, I would think. Down here in advanced timing settings, this is where you can apply your turbo position. Now, some people will start their turbo at 100% throttle, 80, 70%, so on and so forth. Your top speed turbo is how much timing that you're actually adding in when your turbo turns on. Your slew rate is how fast that comes in. So I have 40 degrees of total timing coming in, and it's coming in at 6.3 degrees every 10th of a second. So if you do the math, in about 0.65 seconds, I'm going to have all 40% of my timing in. I'm also adding in a 0.1 second turbo delay. So basically what that means is when I hit 100% throttle, it's going to wait 0.1 seconds before it starts applying that stuff. So pretty handy. When you get into the logging, which we'll look at now, that's where you really can start to customize all that stuff that we were talking about. Now, if we go into data logging here, we're going to load the data from the ESC, and you're not going to see all of your data here at first. What you want to do is hit expand. And when you hit expand, well, you can see the graph there. What that's going to do is that is going to expand out your data to tenths of a second, so you can see exactly what is going on here. So if we scroll down to the beginning of my hit, so this here is probably not the best example because I bailed out and had a wreck, but we can see that we started at 0%, 8.5 volts. I pulled the trigger, we went to 35. The voltage went from 8.5, it spiked up to 9. We got ripple currents going on and stuff in there. There's our temperature, our RPMs. You can see our RPMs are climbing, our throttle percentage is going up, and our voltage is dipping. So this is where you can kind of start fine-tuning things here. So we can see that when I went from the 73% to the 85%, the battery took a big voltage hit, went down to like 6.3. So maybe what we would want to do to conserve that voltage is maybe we would want to bump this down to like 83 or 82%. So that way we could conserve a couple tenths of a volt and not fall below that line there. And that will help us increase our RPMs a lot better as well. Now, typically, you'll see this 100 going on for a while, but since I had to bail out on this one, it must have been just a bad run. I really can't remember. You can see that everything is slowing down. Sometimes you'll go into your run, and not only will your voltage be red, but you'll also see your RPMs might be red, which is your peak. But you might see things are kind of weird, that maybe you're at like 100%, but your RPMs all of a sudden go down, and then they come back up, and then they go down, and then come back up again. Well, it's telling you that you're slipping at the end of the run. So that's awesome information to know just by looking at this. So when you're done doing that, you can either check out your car setup if you need to, or you could decrease things like your slew rate, take a little bit of timing out of it, see if your car in the road can handle the amount of power that you're putting into it. So make sure you take a look at that. Very handy data that is built inside this logging. Nobody does it like this. This is the best way that I've seen it so far. It's very straightforward. It's easy to make little changes in your timing, your voltage, things like that to just correct those little mistakes that are just going to pop out at you like that right there. 6.3 volts. I'm going to lower that down just a couple percent, and that's going to bring that back up during that hit. They've also got an awesome graph built into this, so we can hit the graph and bring up the graph function on this. And we can move anywhere within the hit, and we can see exactly what was going on in a graphical form versus the chart. I like looking at both. I get a lot more information out of the chart, but you know, this is handy, and if you know how to read this stuff a little bit better, it's definitely not going to hurt you, and it's a nice feature that nobody else has. So when you're at the end of your run, what you're going to want to do is just go ahead and either save your data, or in my case, I'm going to reset the data because this is useless. And now everything is ready to go, fresh in stock. I can go back in here, make some changes to the tune, save it, do whatever I want to do, and I'm ready to go and make another rip. And that's how easy and how powerful this system is, guys. It's just fantastic. This is purpose built for our application. So I think that is about it. I am pretty sure I covered everything that I could in this video about the DRK. You can give me any questions, comments, anything like that that you want to add to the discussion. You still can't go wrong with this purchase. They go super fast. Faster than what I've been. I've seen people running 1.9s, probably faster by now with these, who knows. And we constantly hear that they're working on firmware developments, even though we haven't seen any since February. We've seen some app developments. Now, myself coming from the FPV world, sometimes firmware developments, especially when they come like every couple weeks, can be a bear because they'll always break things and they have to fix things. I think we heard Tim Smith actually explain a few of those problems himself that he was having. So we know that Maclan is on board. We know that COVID is slowing down the development of everything they want to do with bringing out maybe an 8th scale or something a little bit more powerful than the 160. You know, the limitation is that you can pretty much only go to a 3-turn. They recommend 3.5, but I know some people that are running 3-turn, and I think Tim Smith even said himself he's running a 3-turn. You know, you just got to be careful like you are with any other ESC. Watch your gearing and don't do anything crazy, even though my DRK has handled anything that I have thrown at it. There was a recent recall on a batch, or 2 batches that actually came out. I had one of those. It literally died after 3 passes. I sent it out and I got a brand new one back in like 8 days. So they're out to take care of their customers, which is fantastic. 3,000 people on their Facebook group to ask questions to. Growing more every day. That's why I wanted to make this video, so everybody can get a good basic understanding of where to start with this ESC and just what it can do for you. Enjoy it. Have fun, be good to each other, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.